Here we go, the 73rd country, Senegal. Actually, in the beginning, Senegal was not in my plan, but I was being told the border between Mauritania and Mali was not safe, so I had to pass Senegal in order to make my way to Mali. So I entered into Senegal from Mauritania overland. I took a boat, arrived in Rosso in Senegal, and after that I arrived in the immigration office. So I asked the officer to help me out to find the vehicle to Saint Louis. That was my final destination on that day. So the officer just found someone to accompany me. And I just handed my money to the guy who accompanied me. But when we arrived at the shared taxi station, he told me he just used all the money. So I learned a lesson. Next time I should have handed the money by myself. When I arrived at St. Louis, my host, the first black host in Black Africa, Usma, came to pick me up. So he lived in like a little bit outside of St. Louis with his family. It's just like one floor like building, and there's a rooftop, and Usman told me sometimes if it's like too hot he sleep on the roof, but during my visit there it's not that hot. So I shared the room with Usman, and just an extra mattress, so I just slept on the floor with the mattress, and he got his own bed. There were like 4 rooms in the house. The other 3 were one it's taken by his parents, another one was taken by his younger sisters, and another one was like from his cousin who just got like new babies. And then I still remember the first night when I arrived there, I just feel a little bit headache, and then Usma gave me some drink. It's called the baobab. Baobab. It's made by the baobab fruit, so baobab juice with some other kind of like fruit powder. And then they told me it's very good for diarrhea, and I tried. And I didn't eat any local food on that night, so I just cooked myself some Chinese noodles with some Chinese chili sauce. And after I had dinner, I feel much better. Usma told me there's like a neighborhood dancing activity going on, so I just went and checked out. And suddenly the local people found out there's a Chinese in the audience, so they just take me to the center and ask me to dance. So I just followed the host and to dance. Actually, I feel a little bit awkward, but nobody knows me, so yeah, I just did that. That was really funny. And my first night in Saint Louis, Usma told me I can eat with the family if I paid like 4,000 sefa every day, but I'm a budget traveler, so I pay like 2,000 sefa. And what they usually cook, it's like the national cuisine from Senegal. It's called timbajan, which was the ingredients based on rice and top up with fish, cabbage, radish, aubergine, and some local bitter aubergine. There were like more than 10 people, including me, in the house, and every day we just shared one big plate. Everyone get a spoon, and everyone just help themselves. Every time we were eating, like after maybe 5 or 6 spoons, and everyone stops, and then I will feel guilty if I continue eating, because I don't know if they were trying to save the food for me. So I just followed them. I did the same. But actually, I was not full. So every one other day, I just eat outside. And one night, I just went out with Usma for a mini concert. And then I met some Chinese overseas on that night, and then we exchanged contact. And after that, Usma is like actually university graduated, but he's Japanese. He got like 5 or 4 friends, and then like only 2 of them were employed. So, and then he just think he's like sugar mommy or something every time he's asking me for money. I mean, in the beginning I don't mind like it just to pay for him to show my appreciation, but if I need to pay everything, I don't feel very comfortable. So one day Usman needed to go out and ask me for money. I said no, I don't do it in this way. And after that he left, and eventually I found out like my money was stolen during my stay at his place. And then I suddenly remembered his elder brother told me, like who studied in the police school, told me never trust anybody in Africa. And so I feel I can't trust Usma anymore. And on the same night he came back very late, and then he like talked to me in some very rude sentence, but I just pretend I was asleep. So the next day I went down and connected with Wi-Fi and get in touch with the Chinese brothers I met in St. Louis, and then they helped me out, and then they came to pick me up. And then after that they have been in St. Louis for a few years, and then they work in the fish meal processing factory. I visited their factory. They treat me with Chinese food, and they think their staff accommodation was a little bit rough, so they just offered me a hotel accommodation nearby their factory. And then the next day they even asked their driver to offer me a lift to the bus station heading to Dakar. So in Dakar I stayed like in a hostel, and then I went to Island Goree with 2 British I met in the hostel. I still remember I was impressed, like in the slavery museum I saw someone written that we can forget but we can't forgive. And also I went to the like Rose Lake or Pink Lake with 2 Polish, but it's not that fancy. I mean, it's kind of just like picture that made people thought it's a very beautiful lake, but it was okay. After that I made my way to Sally, and that was just a paradise for the old European for fun. You will always see this kind of couple, either they are young African women with old European men, or young African men with old European women. I don't judge them, I mean, as long as they enjoyed themselves. And after that I made my way from Karak to Tambacounda. So I stayed one night in Karak, and then in the bus station in Karak I feel a little bit scared, even though I was in Africa like 3 years ago, but this is like I came back to Africa again. I still needed some time to adapt this kind of environment. And then on the way to Tambacounda, our shared taxi broke down, so we need to wait for another vehicle to continue the journey. When I arrived at Tambacounda, it was very late, and I met the mass teacher on the vehicle, and then he helped me out for accommodation. So in Tambacounda, I also stayed in a hostel, and it was a dormitory. It was my very first time to share the dormitory with the local black man. And then, so in the beginning, like each of us occupied one bed in each corner of the room, but after that he moved the bed closer to me, and then I feel insecure. I couldn't sleep anymore. And the next day he told me that's because on the first corner he didn't get the fan, so that's why he moved. And the next day there's another black man came in, so I feel much more comfortable. There were like 2 guys in the dormitory, so I can sleep. And after that I made my way to the border, so I bought a bus ticket